Before the sunrise, everything was different. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to change their entire destiny while others spend their lives waiting for the right moment that never comes? Most people believe success begins with luck, talent, or having the right connections. But history quietly tells a different story. Time and time again, the lives of extraordinary people have been transformed by something so simple that many overlook it completely. Not money, not education, not privilege, a single habit. Today's story begins in a small workshop where the smell of freshly cut wood filled the air every morning. There were no expensive machines, no large team of workers, and certainly no signs that anything remarkable would happen there. Only a humble carpenter. His hands were rough from years of hard labor. Every piece of furniture he built carried the marks of patience, precision, and dedication. Yet despite working harder than almost everyone around him, his financial situation never seemed to improve. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't irresponsible. He simply lived the way most people do, waking up just in time to start working, rushing through each day, solving problems as they appeared, and hoping tomorrow would somehow be better than yesterday. Months became years. Years became routine. And routine slowly became a prison. Then something happened that would completely reshape the course of his life. One evening, after finishing another exhausting day, the carpenter met an elderly man sitting alone outside a small coffee shop. The old man observed him quietly before asking a question that sounded strangely simple. "Tell me, who owns your mornings?" The carpenter smiled, confused. "My customers," he replied. The old man shook his head. "No, your habits do." Those words stayed in his mind long after the conversation ended. For days he couldn't stop thinking about them. Was it possible that success had less to do with working harder and more to do with how each day actually began? Curiosity led him to study the routines of highly successful entrepreneurs, inventors, and business leaders. To his surprise, many of them shared one unexpected pattern. They protected the first hours of their day as if they were the most valuable investment they could ever make. That idea challenged everything he believed. Most people wake up and immediately react to life. Successful people prepare before life begins asking anything from them. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a secret shortcut. It was intentional living. The carpenter made a decision that seemed insignificant at first. The next morning, instead of waking up at the last possible moment, he set his alarm for 5 o'clock. When the alarm rang, every excuse appeared at once. "You're tired. You deserve more sleep. One more hour won't matter." The voice of comfort was loud, but another voice whispered something far more powerful. "If nothing changes, nothing changes." He got out of bed. Outside, the streets were silent. The world was still asleep. For the first time in years, he experienced something he had almost forgotten. Stillness. No phones ringing. No customers waiting. No distractions. Just time. Real time. During those quiet mornings, he began reading books about money, leadership, discipline, and business. He wrote down goals he had never dared to write before. He planned every hour of his day instead of allowing every problem to control it. Slowly, something invisible began to happen. His income had not changed. His workshop looked exactly the same. His tools were still old. But his mind was no longer the same. And every great empire is built twice. First in the mind, then in reality. The carpenter had no idea that those peaceful mornings before sunrise were quietly laying the first foundation stones of a future no one around him could yet imagine. What looked like an ordinary change in schedule was becoming something much greater. It was the beginning of a completely different life. And in the next chapter, you'll discover why waking up at 5 a.m. was never really about the clock. It was about mastering something that most people lose every single day without even realizing it. The real battle was never against time. The second morning was harder than the first. The excitement of trying something new had already faded, and reality began to speak with a familiar voice. "You worked hard yesterday. You deserve to rest. Missing one morning won't make a difference." the carpenter realized something unexpected. The greatest obstacle wasn't waking up at 5. It was learning to say no to the version of himself that always looked for comfort before growth. Every successful person eventually discovers a truth that most people ignore. The first battle of every day happens long before you face the world. It happens inside your own mind. Every morning at 5 a.m., the carpenter found himself standing at an invisible crossroads. One path led back to the warmth of the bed, the comfort of routine, and another ordinary day. The other path demanded discipline. No applause. No immediate rewards. No guarantee that anything would change. Renda só abrir a renejo, zamprãozutão, conceitos pensupumomestados. Just one quiet decision made while the rest of the world was still asleep. He chose discipline. Again. And again. And again. After several weeks, something remarkable began to happen, not outside his workshop, but inside himself. He no longer rushed through his mornings. Instead, he created a simple ritual. He spent the first few minutes in complete silence. Not because silence magically creates success, but because it allowed him to hear something that constant noise had buried for years. His own thoughts. For the first time, he began asking questions instead of simply reacting to life. What kind of man do I want to become? What skills should I improve? How can I serve my customers better? What mistakes am I repeating? These questions slowly replaced complaints. Without realizing it, he had started changing the quality of his thinking. And the quality of your life often follows the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Soon, reading became part of every morning, not for hours. Sometimes just 20 or 30 focused minutes. He read about business, communication, money management, leadership, human behavior. He discovered that successful people never stop learning because they understand one simple principle. Knowledge compounds just like money. One page doesn't change your life. 100 pages begin to shape your thinking. 1,000 pages can completely transform your future. The carpenter also began writing. Every morning he filled a notebook with ideas. Some were small improvements for his workshop. Others were dreams that once seemed impossible. One page contained a sentence he wrote repeatedly. Today's discipline becomes tomorrow's freedom. At first, those words were only ink on paper. Months later, they became the foundation of his entire life. Little by little, his customers noticed subtle changes. He became more patient, more organized, more attentive to details. He started delivering projects earlier than promised. His craftsmanship improved because his focus improved. His confidence grew because every morning he had already kept one important promise to himself. That single promise changed everything. People often think confidence comes before action. But in reality, confidence is built by keeping commitments, especially the small ones that nobody else sees. Each morning at 5, the carpenter proved to himself that his decisions were stronger than his excuses. That invisible victory followed him throughout the entire day. Problems no longer felt overwhelming. Difficult customers no longer ruined his mood. Unexpected setbacks became challenges instead of reasons to quit. He wasn't becoming successful because of the clock. He was becoming successful because every sunrise was training qualities that money could never buy. Discipline, consistency, patience, vision, responsibility. These qualities quietly attracted opportunities that had always existed, but that his former mindset had been unable to recognize. Without realizing it, the carpenter was no longer simply building tables and chairs. Day after day, he was building the kind of person capable of building something far greater. And soon, an unexpected opportunity would arrive, one that most people would have completely missed, but that his new way of thinking would allow him to recognize immediately. The opportunity everyone else ignored. There is an old saying that success comes to those who are prepared. But perhaps a more accurate truth is this. Success often arrives quietly, disguised as ordinary work, and only prepared minds recognize its value. For months, the carpenter continued following his new morning routine without expecting immediate rewards. He wasn't chasing miracles. He wasn't waiting for luck. He simply focused on becoming a little better every single day. His workshop was still small. His clothes were still simple. His income had improved only slightly. From the outside, almost nothing had changed. But inside, everything was different. His discipline had sharpened his judgment. His daily reading had expanded his vision. His habit of planning had taught him to think several steps ahead instead of reacting to whatever happened. One rainy afternoon, while finishing a custom dining table, a well-dressed businessman entered the workshop. He wasn't looking for luxury furniture. He was simply searching for someone honest who could complete a project that larger companies had repeatedly delayed. Dimensiões exponenciais, cadeiras em cartões do pintution bros em negotes. Daarbij voorhoso met trimsi, daarbij is no asumum praedil and drot crew. He noticed something unusual. Every chair was perfectly balanced. Every table had flawless details. Every tool was clean and organized. Nothing seemed rushed. Everything reflected pride in craftsmanship. After several minutes of silence, he asked the carpenter a question. "Why is your work different from everyone else's?" The carpenter paused. Years earlier, he might have answered by talking about the quality of his wood or his experience. But now his answer surprised even himself. "Because I learned that excellence begins long before work begins." The businessman smiled. Those words revealed something far more valuable than technical skill. They revealed character. And character is something money cannot buy. The conversation continued for nearly an hour. They talked about responsibility, discipline, long-term thinking, keeping promises. The businessman wasn't just hiring someone to build furniture. He was searching for someone he could trust. Within a few days, the carpenter received the largest order of his entire career. It was worth more than he had earned during several previous months combined. Most people would call it luck. But was it really? If he had continued living the way he once did, if his workshop had remained disorganized, if deadlines had still been missed, if his attitude had remained ordinary, would that opportunity have stayed? Probably not. This is something many people misunderstand. Opportunities rarely create successful people. Successful habits prepare people for opportunities. The order required more work than one man could handle alone. Instead of panicking, the carpenter did something that his old self would never have considered. He created a plan. Using the organizational skills he had developed during his quiet mornings, he divided every task into smaller daily goals. He calculated expenses carefully. He estimated delivery times honestly. He hired one assistant, not because he wanted to appear successful, but because he wanted to protect the quality of his work. That decision changed everything. His assistant learned quickly. Soon, the workshop became more productive than ever before. Satisfied customers began recommending his work to friends, neighbors, and local business owners. One opportunity became two. Two became 10. 10 became dozens. Without expensive advertising, without wealthy investors, without shortcuts, his reputation spread naturally. People trusted him because consistency had become part of his identity. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden inside this story. Your reputation is built long before people begin talking about you. It is built in the quiet mornings, in the promises you keep, in the details nobody notices, in the discipline that nobody applauds. The carpenter finally understood something that many spend their entire lives searching for. Wealth is not the first reward. Trust is. And once people trust you, opportunities begin finding you instead of the other way around. That humble workshop was no longer just a place where wood became furniture. It had become the birthplace of something much greater, a business, a vision, and the foundation of an empire that was only beginning to rise. The million-dollar difference was never money. People often imagine that becoming wealthy happens the moment a large amount of money enters someone's life. But the truth is far less dramatic. Real wealth begins long before the first million ever appears. It begins with the ability to manage the little you already have. As the carpenter's business continued to grow, something unexpected happened. For the first time in many years, more money started arriving than he had ever earned before. Larger projects, more clients, steady recommendations. New opportunities seemed to appear every month. Many people believe this is the happiest part of success. Ironically, for countless businesses, this is exactly where failure begins. The carpenter had watched others experience it. Some bought expensive cars before building stable businesses. Others rented luxurious offices they couldn't afford. Many confused appearance with prosperity. They wanted to look successful before actually becoming successful. Within a few years, most of them disappeared. Watching those stories taught him one unforgettable lesson. Money doesn't solve bad habits. It amplifies them. If someone lacks discipline while earning little, they will likely lack discipline while earning much more. If someone wastes small amounts, they often waste larger amounts once they have them. The carpenter refused to let success change his principles. Every morning at 5, his notebook remained open. Only now the pages looked different. Instead of writing personal goals alone, he began planning the future of the business. Every dollar had a purpose before it was ever spent. Some money returned to better equipment. Some was saved for unexpected challenges. Some was invested in learning new techniques. Some was reserved for hiring the right people. He stopped seeing money as something to spend. He started seeing it as something that could create even more value. That single shift completely transformed his future. One afternoon, a friend visited the workshop. Looking around at the growing business, he smiled and asked, "Pongropolitira furitukani, foviala furisoazia da klibe, kita falonu, hotezawiske feketi meli do amamridiko origea neobir, union mambaranton, valsitalis ilman virga, jevenses enoyeton, onolas monartis anomu, yetkenlolte, Drunvarena naar Marange studets genover, ondrero bandwaile opplans om vanligt in rebusikuldo, when frandres to memvaukolom miwans to dead, what is it? The carpenter laughed softly. He pointed toward a new woodworking machine standing quietly in the corner. That? His friend looked confused. That's not a luxury. The carpenter smiled. Exactly. Most people celebrate success by increasing their lifestyle. He celebrated success by increasing his capacity. Every new tool allowed him to produce better work. Every improvement reduced mistakes. Every investment created opportunities for even greater growth. He had discovered something that many people spend their entire lives misunderstanding. The wealthy rarely think first about spending, they think about multiplying. Instead of asking, "What can I buy?" they ask, "What can this money build?" That question quietly separates temporary income from lasting wealth. Months turned into years. His workshop expanded again. More skilled craftsmen joined the team. Orders began arriving from neighboring cities. His reputation spread far beyond the small town where everything had started. But perhaps the greatest surprise was this. The carpenter never stopped waking up at 5. Not because he needed more money. Not because someone forced him, but because those quiet mornings had become the foundation of the man he had become. The routine no longer felt difficult. It felt natural. Success had never come from waking up early alone. Outros paros têm chihoni preciso, e recorrito. Wana como ovículo allen ablenta neo pogiquero. E se quesete forariamun nan biona outro caut dotuilas vis. Tensli miluyamos non nostro voluntariate sauniarisia beviadas goma lumo. Et always venen rigorous intersinuation glamourusivomir. Many people admired his growing business. Few understood the invisible habits supporting it. They saw the workshop. They saw the employees. They saw the financial success. But they never saw the silent mornings, the notebooks filled with ideas, the countless small decisions repeated over hundreds of ordinary days. The empire wasn't built during extraordinary moments. It was built during ordinary mornings that almost everyone else chose to sleep through. And soon, a challenge would appear that no amount of money could solve. A challenge that would test whether the carpenter had truly become wealthy, or whether he had simply become rich. The secret was never 5 a.m. It was the man he became. Years passed. The small workshop that once struggled to survive had become a respected business. What began with one pair of hands eventually provided opportunities for many others. Skilled craftsmen worked side by side, customers traveled from distant towns, and the carpenter's name became associated with one simple word: trust. People admired the business he had built. Some admired the money. Others admired the beautiful workshop. Many asked the same question: what was your secret? Most expected him to reveal a hidden investment strategy, a lucky opportunity, or a business trick that changed everything overnight. Instead, he would smile and answer with words that often disappointed those looking for shortcuts. My success didn't begin when I earned my first million. It began the morning I decided to become responsible for my own future. The room usually fell silent, because deep down, everyone knew what he meant. Success is rarely created by one extraordinary moment. It is built through hundreds of ordinary decisions that almost nobody notices. The alarm that rings before sunrise. The book you choose to read instead of scrolling endlessly. The promise you keep when nobody is watching. The discipline to improve by just 1% each day. These small actions seem insignificant on their own, but over time, they become impossible to ignore. Looking back, the carpenter realized something that changed the way he viewed life. The greatest reward had never been money. Money gave him comfort. It gave him freedom. It allowed him to build a successful business. But it was not the greatest gift. The greatest gift was the person he had become along the journey. A man who kept his word. A man who welcomed challenges instead of fearing them. A man who understood that every sunrise offered a new opportunity to become wiser than the day before. Perhaps that is the lesson hidden within every inspiring story. We often search for a magical formula while overlooking the simple habits that quietly shape our destiny. The truth is, waking up at 5 o'clock will not automatically make anyone wealthy. But choosing discipline over comfort, learning instead of making excuses, planning instead of reacting, investing instead of wasting, and remaining consistent long after the excitement fades, those choices have the power to transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Maybe your dream is different from the carpenter's. Perhaps you want to start a business, build financial freedom, support your family, leave a legacy, or simply become the best version of yourself. Whatever your goal may be, remember this: every great achievement begins long before anyone else can see it. It begins in the quiet moments. It begins with one decision, and tomorrow morning offers another chance to make that decision again. So before you ask yourself whether you can build $1 million future, ask a different question: who do I need to become to deserve it? Because in the end, the greatest empire you will ever build is not made of wood, money, or success. It is built within yourself, and that is where every lasting victory truly begins.